Inheritance tax and equity release. Now what we're looking at here is the inheritance tax issue. So over here then I've got a property, and this particular property has an inheritance tax problem. Say it's a lovely house and it's worth, I'm going to say it's worth £1 million, 1 million. Now there may be exceptions, but there's probably going to be inheritance tax to pay on that one. It's owned by one person only, so definitely will be. So let's put our character in there. There she is. She owns the property. So obviously you've got nil rate bands, you've got the main resident bands. So she'll be able to reduce a lot of that before she pays inheritance tax, but there'll be a big IHT bill going. So she decides then to give that property to her son right now. She says, you know, bugger that, she says, I don't want to live here anymore, so I'm going to give this house to my son, Michael. There's Michael there for you. Very happy chappy now because he's got a brand new property, doesn't need to rent anymore. And she gives that to him. Now that's fine, you can do that, but any gift of your estate forms what they call a potentially exempt transfer. So that gift causes or creates a PET, a potentially exempt transfer. And now you've got this 7-year period now which starts, you know, the clock starts ticking. Because what happens, you see, with inheritance tax is if you give an asset away to somebody and you survive for 7 years, then that's fine. You've given the asset away nice and clean and it doesn't form part of your estate for inheritance tax. It's known as a PET. But if you were to die during that 7-year period, then a proportion of that asset would still be added to your estate to work out inheritance tax calculations. So it's called a PET. It's a clever thing, really. It stops people basically giving stuff away as they approach their deathbed. You know, here we are, son, have my house. You know, it doesn't work because that situation, the whole value of the property will be put onto your estate anyway. So that's a PET. Now that's a HMRC thing. That's a Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs thing, who of course need every penny they can get at the moment because they keep spending it on other things. So they need all the tax they could possibly get. And that's great. Now, the argument there, of course, is that would she be able to live in the property whilst the son owns it? No, unless she pays a commercial rent, which has to be a proper tenancy as well, because otherwise it becomes what's called a gift for reservation of benefit or a grob, and therefore it's ignored anyway. Now, on the other hand, though, the lady develops some illness and she needs to go into a care home. So that's the situation. So she's given the house away to her son, and she's living with friends or whatever, but she now needs to go into a care home. So there's your care home there. Nice little property there with little gardens and everything. And to go into a care home, of course, you've got to pay for these things. But she says to the care home people, look, I haven't got any money. You know, I'm living with friends. I'm living on sofa. And my son owns my house. I gave it to him a couple of years ago. So she says, look, Mr. Council, Mr. Local Authority, would you please pay for my care home? And that's fine because she hasn't got any money, she hasn't got any assets. Therefore, the council will foot the bill for her care home costs. Because as you know, if you've got money in the form of a property, which nobody else is living in, or shares, or money, or saved up, or whatever, you've got to use that first to pay for your care home, which makes sense, really, because it should be done that way. And if you've got a house, you'll have to sell the thing to pay for your care home costs. Until, of course, you get down to a certain minimum level of assets when the council will pick up the bill. Now, the problem here, though, is that she's given away the property. So the council turn around and say, hold on there, lady. You deliberately prevented us from taking your property to pay for the care home. So they use what they call deliberate asset deprivation. Deliberate, there you go, asset deprivation. Now, if you've ever dreamt up of a title that's awful, that's probably going to win the gold medal of awful titles, isn't it? You can't even make an acronym out of that, only DAD. You know, it just doesn't work, does it? So basically what it means is that the council have their people whereby they can go back and check to see whether you've deliberately kept any assets away from the council. And they'll go back and say, hold on, you gave your house to your son a couple of years ago. Now, we think that was done deliberately to avoid care home costs. So, you know, we want that house to be sold and pay for the care home. We're not paying the care home costs for you. You're going to have to pay it yourself. You've got a house. And they get lawyers and people to do all of this properly. Therefore, the council have the right to go back as far as they want to get that money. And then go back as long as they want. Now, it doesn't affect the PET for inheritance tax purposes, she's not in dead anyway yet, so the 7-year rule's still going. And this, of course, as you can appreciate, this deliberate asset deprivation, which I shall call DAD from now on, is the local council. It's the local council involved here, not HMRC, although ultimately they pay for councils, don't they, the central government. It's a different body, so they're not really worried about whatever you do to the house for the pets. That's down to HMRC. This local council wants to get their money from that house to pay the care home costs. So the two worked hand in hand here. So what would happen is that the pet would carry on, but the council, of course, would take the house over. So the son would have to give the house back, so that kind of kills that gift, doesn't it? It just kind of mixes the two together. I quite like that little case study, actually. It shows how the real world starts to affect things. So for CMAP purposes, remember your IHT and your pets and things for that side of stuff. And for your equity release, remember the deliberate asset deprivation paying for the local authority care home.